All right. All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Today is a historic and a great day. Thank you so much to everyone that is with us today on the Zoom and all those who are watching the live stream. I want to thank everyone who's come out from so many walks of life to celebrate with us as we enact into law the banishment of the Corrections Department from 413 acres of Rikers Island that have become the symbols of horror and cruelty in the American justice system all over the world. We are here today not because of some grand vision of city planners or prestigious academic institutions. We are here today because of survivors of Rikers Island and those who were impacted by the incarceration machine had a vision of not only a more equitable justice system, but a future of Rikers Island as uplifting as the past was degrading. So I am going to introduce at this moment Darren Mack from the Freedom Agenda, who is going to give some opening words, and then I'm going to come back and talk about the legislation that we're passing today. Darren.
Thank you so much, Councilman. My name is Darren Mack. I'm one of the co-directors of Freedom Agenda, which is a member-led project in the Urban Justice Center. We are dedicated to organizing people and communities impacted by incarceration to achieve decarceration and system transformation. There have been several moments in our city's history to close Rikers Island. Most of those efforts were top down from the people in power, and it fell short. But the power of the people created a movement from the bottom up with survivors of Rikers, their family members, allies, and advocates mobilized, organized to shutter the last penal colony in the United States. Our members are united that a renewable Rikers is a system transformation. The Renewable Rikers Act is a nail for Rikers' coffin. Our vision of renewable Rikers can repair the harms of environmental hazards in our communities, and this will benefit our entire city. Today can be a historic step towards legal justice. Today can be a historical step towards environmental justice. Today can be a historic step towards reparative justice. Pass the Renewable Rikers Act. We encourage to city council members to pass the Renewable Rikers Act. And with that, I'll pass it back to our champion for the Renewable Rikers Act, City Councilman Constantinides.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you, brother. It's good to see you, and it's good to see the signs. It's without being all on the steps together. This having the signs and having the people power is so very important. And I miss you all, and I wish we could all be together today. So I just want to give a little history on how we got here. Former speaker and longtime advocate Melissa Mark Viverito helped create the Littman Commission on Criminal Justice Reform. When their report describing how to close Rikers was released, one of the post-jail options they considered was the use for renewable opportunities. After meeting with Judge Littman and commission members, as well as members of the Freedom Agenda, people who became my brothers and sisters, Vidal Guzman and Marcos Barrios and Kandra Clark and Darren himself, we started crafting a journey of legislation together. I also had the pleasure of working with Professor Rebecca Bratspies from the CUNY Law Center for Urban Environmental Reform on a project that helped further conceptualize the renewable energy potential with battery storage and that helped continue to lay the foundation of what we could build on Rikers Island that could help close power plants throughout our city. Those power plants that were notoriously put in environmental justice neighborhoods 20 years ago that pollute our neighborhoods. The same neighborhoods that were over-policed and victimized by Rikers Island also were victimized by these power plants, spewing toxins into the lungs of our young people and causing asthma rates to skyrocket. We know that we can build a better city together. As I got to better know the advocates, I got to feel their passion. I learned that it was not just rooted in desire to exercise the demons of what they personally experienced on Rikers Island, but how they could help the collective trauma of an entire community and help build a better future for all. I was determined to stand with these activists and advocates as they fought not only to close Rikers Island, but to realize a vision of where we could go from here. So in June in 2019, we introduced the Renewable Rikers Act. And once the bills were introduced, we listened to the communities that were impacted by Rikers Island and the environmental racism that were built around these power plants in these environmental justice neighborhoods. We had town halls with some Congressmember Ocasio-Cortez in Jackson Heights and others. We had meetings in the Queensbridge houses and the Astoria houses, and which stand in the shadow of those very power plants that were cited in 2000 with no environmental review, but the same neighborhoods that were victimized by over-policing and over-incarceration. We had Zoom meetings and meetings with Bronx activists talking about the need for environmental justice and closing Rikers Island. And while Renewable Rikers was a key to understanding the why of why this had to happen, rallies where we were harassed by law enforcement at the mouth of Rikers Island and told that we had to leave only steeled our resolve to ensure that what happens benefits the most people who are impacted by the horrors on this island. The core of the act is to transfer the jurisdiction away from the Department of Corrections to an agency positioned to handle the transition. Secondly, we had to assess what uses made the most sense and in what configuration on Rikers Island. That's why we included studies for renewable energy, battery storage, wastewater treatment capacity, anaerobic digestion as well. Determining how much Rikers can accommodate and what we can bring as a renewable Rikers Island is so critical. And the data in creating Renewable Rikers is not only global, but it has local ramifications as well. Every use, like power generation or sewage, that can be relocated to Rikers Island frees up space in neighborhoods, that have been overburdened, give them the opportunity to reimagine wastewater treatment plants as parks or housing for the community in their own neighborhoods. That's why Renewable Rikers can be such a transformative project. If we do this right, we can reform our mass incarceration system, our energy system, our wastewater system, all while bringing open spaces and good jobs to long underserved communities. While we cannot fully cleanse the stain that Rikers Island represents in our city's history, nor we can get back those who have been lost there. But we can do in their memory, we can build a brighter and greener future. We can build a future together with those, and have the leaders, those who've been impacted by Rikers leading the way, work together to build a better and greener future for one another. And a New York we can all be proud of. So we are joined here today by our speaker, our champion, our great environmental advocate, Corey Johnson, who I'll bring on to speak in a moment. Thank you, Speaker Johnson, for all of your great work, and thank you for being here today. The Freedom Agenda, New York City Environmental Justice Alliance, NYCA, the New York Lawyers for Public Interest, NILP, thank you, Melissa, the Lippman Commission, the Point CDC, the Natural Resources Defense Council, Sunrise NYC, 350 Brooklyn, the New York League of Conservation Voters, Align, and lastly, I just want to give a special shout out to We Act for Environmental Justice. I want to really recognize my brother, Cecil Corbin Mark. I miss him so much today. I'll just tell a quick story about Cecil. We first started talking about this idea back in 2018, 2019. When we had first introduced the bills, Cecil came to Queens and he put his arm around me as he got there and he said, "Costa, only for you, brother, do I come to Queens on a Wednesday night." And, we gave each other a hug and a big smile, and we laughed, and then he was brilliant that day. And then a couple of months later, there was a We Act for Environmental Justice legislative breakfast talking about the future of Rikers Island. And it was Saturday morning at 10 a.m., and I drove up to Manhattan. And I put my arm around him and just kind of joked with him. I said, "Brother, Cecil, only for you, my brother, do I come out to Manhattan, and I leave the borough of Queens to talk." So Cecil, We miss you. We love you. This is for you, brother. So I just want to have a quick moment of silence in memory of our brother, Cecil. Thank you. We know you're watching, Cecil. We'll miss you. And your memory lives on. So with that, I want to bring forward our Speaker of the New York City Council, an environmental champion, a champion for justice, Speaker Corey Johnson.
Thank you, Costa. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here this morning. It's a really big day, and this is a real continuation of the work that we have done as Councilmember Constantinides has just been an exemplary champion for the environment, forward-thinking, just on the cutting edge of making sure that we are doing everything we can to move away from fossil fuels and to go towards renewables, working with advocates. And so I really, really want to thank him. Can we have a sort of a Zoom round of applause for Costa and everything that he has done over the last 7 years as chair of this committee? I guess he wasn't chair all 7 years, maybe 5 of the years he was chair for. So I want to thank him. He mentioned some of the other folks to thank, but I want to thank them as well. The Freedom Agenda, New York Lawyers for the Public Interest, NYC, the Environmental Justice Alliance, the Lippman Commission, the Point CDC, Bronx Connect, the Natural Resource Defense Council, and there are many, many more. So I'm sorry if I left you out, but we're grateful to all your work. Costa just mentioned it, but I also want to thank We Act for Environmental Justice, and again, acknowledge Cecil Corbin Mark, an early proponent of this work. His passing, as Costa said, was just an enormous loss for our city, for environmental justice, for doing the right thing for New Yorkers that need it. I want to just say all of you immediately saw the potential of this land to be transformed into a force for public good. And I want to thank, especially want to thank all of the formerly incarcerated individuals and their affected families, friends, and communities. Your work with these organizations and beyond has been inspiring and meaningful, and we are all extraordinarily grateful. By helping to shape the future of Rikers Island, you are helping all of your fellow New Yorkers for generations to come, which is exactly what the council is striving to do every day, but especially today with this vote. For years, the council fought to close Rikers Island. My predecessor, Speaker Melissa Mark Viverito, started the conversation with many of the people that are on this call today. And I was honored to help finish it off by having the council finally vote to close Rikers Island. But closing Rikers Island was only one step in a process to change our city. And part of the plan to close Rikers Island includes $391 million in total funding for a wide range of community investments to reform the criminal justice system and address the root causes of incarceration. And now we have to actually think about the future of the land itself, a future that no longer symbolizes the mass incarceration that has destroyed so many individuals and families and communities, particularly Black and brown individuals and their families and communities, but a future that instead represents a healthier and more sustainable New York City. And the vision for Renewable Rikers emerged from conversations about the post-carceral future of the island. We can't allow this land to languish. The vote formally removes, this vote will formally remove Rikers from the control of the Board of Correction, but it's more than just a transfer of land between agencies. It is a step in our work to address climate change, which, as you all know, is an existential threat to our city. Rikers Island has the potential to be an environmental hub, a place that will help New Yorkers for decades to come. It's important for us not to waste this opportunity. So again, I'm very excited by this vote today. I want to thank, again, my friend and colleague, Councilmember Costa Constantinides, and everyone whose incredible passion and dedication has made getting to today possible. So thank you to all of you for being here this morning. We look forward to proceeding with today's vote in just a few hours. Thank you to all the advocates. You know, we know that so many of the good ideas that come forward in our city are not ideas by elected officials, are not ideas by city council members. It's ideas that are brought to us by thoughtful advocates and activists, community-based organizations and leaders that are constantly thinking outside the box. And that's what this is. This was not, Costa, of course, deserves credit for working with all of you and synthesizing much of that work and putting it into a bill. But so much of the work we do is reliant on the work that you all do every day in doing the research, in doing the organizing, in going into communities. Someone's putting up "We the People." Exactly. We the people, you the people are the ones who have really been the engine behind this. So I want to thank you all so much for getting us to today. And I hope today will be a unanimous vote, which shows the importance of moving forward and having an environmental hub on one of the worst pieces of land in the city of New York, turning into something good for the future of New York City, instead of the stain of that penal colony sitting in the East River has been for almost 100 years. So congratulations. We look forward to voting on this today. And thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Costa.
Thank you, Speaker Johnson. Thank you for your continued leadership and your commitment to making New York City a greener and more just place. Thank you so much, brother. Appreciate all the work that you do, and can't say enough of you. We would not be here if not for your leadership. So thank you.
I'll see you later. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you. With that, I'll hand it back to Darren from the Freedom Agenda to introduce our next speakers.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you, Speaker, for your commitment, leadership, and support for the Renewable Rikers Act. Speaking of organizations, I definitely want to thank a few organizations before I bring on the next speaker. First, I would like to thank the Jails Action Coalition that's been on the front lines with us since day one and continue to do the good work. I want to thank the Fortune Society for the work and the support that they've been doing for us. Providence House, Vocal New York, Brotherhood Sister Soul, Justice for Women Task Force, and so many others. And next up, we're going to bring on someone who had the honor to do work with and organize with. He's an activist, he's an entrepreneur, and he's a leader in the movement to close Rikers Island. So give applause for my brother, Vidal Guzman.
Thank you, everyone. And just thank you for this just opportunity to actually be here, and then the council member and city council for moving this conversation forward. I think for myself, these past 4.5 years when the campaign first started, I know it wasn't easy for us, especially a lot of us who've been around the campaign since he first started. It felt like we was climbing mountains, and it felt like sometimes we was crawling, or sometimes we wasn't even walking at all, or it felt like we was walking backwards in a lot of the times of our campaign. But like I knew for us, our ancestors and individuals that we lost on Rikers Island was pushing us forward. And as I talk about this victory, we talk about Khalif Browder and other different individuals whose life was lost, that this fight for true liberation and the closure of Rikers is for them. You know what I'm saying? So fighting for our community and representing our community is a must. I think it's very important for people of color, and especially this moment for directly impacted people and environmental advocates to work together. Because one thing that we're teaching this country, that other different people from different backgrounds can work together, as long as we are thinking of the same thing. And the same thing for this city was to close Rikers Island. And we knew that, one thing I have to say in the beginning of the campaign, we knew that we was going to be collaborating with environmental advocates, and to kind of see how we actually collaborated. It's just happy to kind of say that hopefully they make a movie about us. And it'll be the part about how we changed the city, and we actually put environmental conversation in front line. And we always have to, number one, keep doing is to make sure people of color know that environmental oppression is not invisible oppression. And that is a very important conversation. So as we're moving forward and holding our city council accountable, the Renewable Rikers is what our community actually need to breathe, to survive, and to make sure that we are striving for a better city. And as the so-called mayor says, a better NYC. And for that mean actually for a community as being listened to. And with this today, as city councils voting on Renewable Rikers, this was the moments that we was listened to, and we got to keep fighting. We got to make sure that Renewable Rikers gets all the way to the finish line. And with that being said, these 4.5 years, it's an honor every single day fighting with every single one of y'all. I know it wasn't easy. Some of us went home sometimes. Some of us wasn't smiling every single day. But, this is a fruit of our labor. And sometimes when we represent communities, sometimes we don't know who they are. We don't know who we're helping out. But this is our legacy, and this is what we got to keep moving forward. So for directly impacted people who have survived Rikers Island and who have been through the trauma of the tale of Rikers Island, as we call it, Gladiator School and Torture Island, that today is our day to see a light at the end of the tunnel. So thank you, and I appreciate every single one of y'all. And thank you to the council member and city council for moving this forward.
Thank you so much for that, and it's good to see you on the front line, staying committed and moving for justice. So next up, another person who's from the EJ community, representing the Point, who's also been in this fight with us and will continue to be in this fight with us to make a Renewable Rikers our vision for the future for our city. I bring up Dariela Rodriguez.
Hello, good morning. I'm trying to stay in the spirit of rally and celebration as we're not on steps together, especially after hearing Vidal speak. I mean, everything you said is so on point. I think that we can't separate EJ advocates and criminal justice survivors in this movement, because we share root causes of our problems, and that's why we're here together, to solve multiple problems together. In the South Bronx, we know we've suffered the burden of a long history of not only environmental justice issues, but also criminal justice system that actually destroys our communities, families, and our children's lives. Systemic issues like this, they require big, bold action. The only way to ensure restorative justice for the South Bronx and for all of impacted by Rikers is to support community-led solutions, survivor-led solutions, and create real opportunity for equitable solar projects that, for example, ensure utility savings, and prioritize other needs of EJ communities. So we have to address multiple problems, take big actions, big solutions, and remember that the people closest to the problems are the people closest to the solutions, and those are the solutions that we need to uplift. So I'm really honored to be even here with all of you who have had the incredible commitment to keep pushing this vision forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dariela. Thank you so much. And I have to say that when I've been to the Point, it amazed me so much going on. So many young people active, doing so many creative things. It's like, I was like, man, we need more of this. So next up, I'm going to bring is someone who's a community leader, a Bronx native, a member of Freedom Agenda, someone who's been in this fight, advocating, organizing with us to this point today. I'm bringing up Darlene Jackson.
Thank you to all the council members for your political will and courage to combat mass criminalization and environmental racism, and your partnership with directly impacted New Yorkers. This vision came from impacted communities all over the city who started having conversations years ago about how to address the legacy of Rikers and how the land could be used to repair the harm that many of us are still grappling with. My mother who was criminalized for her drug addiction instead of treatment. And as a result, my siblings and I cycled into the foster care system, homelessness, and incarceration. My aunt who died in custody after giving birth, still handcuffed to her hospital bed. Harm that women still endure at the Rose M. Singer Center on Rikers Island. This is only possible because people who survived the notorious Rikers Island jails and the families who have been impacted have organized to close Rikers and joined with environmental justice communities to put forth a vision for how to start repairing the harms of decades of mass incarceration and environmental racism. And I'm proud to be a part of this win as a Bronx native. The Bronx has been the unhealthiest county of all 62 counties in New York State for more than a decade. And environmental racism, inequality, and poverty was cut in the Bronx well before COVID-19. And with the Renewable Rikers passing during Black History Month is as a form of reparations when our borough became the epicenter of the economic and public health crisis. It is only right to honor the people we lost during this pandemic outside and inside our city jails with the ongoing organizing that we're all committed to. So I thank everyone for giving this opportunity to do this work, this necessary work on the front lines. And I see you in the streets when it's safe to do so.
Thank you so much, Darlene. And thank you so much for the years of standing tall in spite of it all. So next up, we can't have a rally without having some performance or art. So I'm going to bring up a spoken word artist. He is a community leader from the Bronx. Let's give it up for Cecil Brooks Jr.
Cecil, you just have to unmute yourself.
Look like Cecil having a little technical difficulties, but until we work on that, I definitely want to give a shout out to organization Exodus Community Transitional Services, who's been step by step for all these years. Like I've been doing this work since 2016, advocating, organizing, mobilizing, and we still got more work to do. If you're from East New York, if you're from Bronzeville, if you're from the Lower East Side, if you're from Bedford-Stuyvesant, if you're from the South Bronx, if you're from East Harlem, if you're from South Jamaica, Queens, we got work to do. Is Cecil ready? So we'll try to get Cecil on. You can just give me a cue. And with that, I believe that we're going to pass it on.
We'll go on to the next speaker, I guess.
Yeah, we'll try to get Cecil in a little bit later, council member, if you just want to continue.
Great. So I just want to bring forward, talk about the legislation, the vision of reparative and restorative justice from the Littman Commission. I don't know if it's Tyler or Zachary who's going to be speaking, but I just want to bring you forth at this time to introduce the next group of speakers.
All right, everybody, it's amazing to be here. I hope we get to hear from Cecil, because I'm sure what he's got to say is he's going to say it better than I can. I'm Tyler Nims. I'm the director of the Littman Commission. I'm grateful. I'm thrilled to be here today. Honored to work with everybody here. Speaker Johnson, Councilmember Constantinides, who's been incredible. Vidal talked at the beginning of all this about this being a long road and a hard road. We're far from the end of that road, but the movement that we've seen is incredible, and it's testament to the power of this. When our commission started to look at closing Rikers more than 4 years ago, we recognized the need to look ahead to the future of the island. And we did that with 3 principles in mind. One is, got to use the island for the public good. The second was, you got to think long-term, not just a few years, but decades down into the future. And then most importantly, got to acknowledge in that vision of the future, the harms that the island has done and what it represents, and the systems that it represents, and use the future of the island to address that legacy of harm and those ongoing harms. We heard this over and over again from the people who are leading the campaign to close Rikers, from the people who are directly impacted, the people who really led this fight and have carried us this far. So the short answer is that the environmental potential for Rikers Island is enormous, and the potential for reparative justice is enormous. So I want to start by introducing one of the leaders of this fight, a force of nature, Kandra Clark from Exodus Transitional Community, to talk in some more detail.
Thanks so much, Tyler, and thank you all for coming together today on this really important moment. My name is Kandra Clark. I work with Exodus Transitional Community. We're a preventative reentry and advocacy organization, and 90% of our staff, including myself, are directly impacted by incarceration. The people most impacted by mass incarceration and environmental racism came together to make Renewable Rikers a reality. We've been working for over 2 years and educating the public as to the benefits of renewable energy on the land that Rikers Island Correctional Facility currently sits on. We are closing Rikers. We are transforming our systems, and that includes all of our systems. We are working not only to address the root causes of incarceration, but ensure that the neighborhoods most impacted receive investments so our young people never experience incarceration in the first place. In the neighborhoods where the peaker plants are located, as Councilmember Costa spoke about earlier, the communities can decide what resources they need once we close those peaker plants down. Everyone's children are going to breathe cleaner air. We are all going to be healthier as a result. Today can be a win for New Yorkers, but the battle is just beginning. We must continue to work collectively to heal our communities, and Renewable Rikers is a cause where the people most harmed by Rikers are giving back and leading with love. When we came together, when we talked about what we wanted the legacy of Rikers to be, or what we wanted Rikers to be remembered for, we wanted to make sure that what we devised was something that the entire city could benefit from, again, because we really want to lead with love. We really want to educate the world on the root causes of incarceration and get folks to understand that people are incarcerated because of mental health issues, substance use issues, lack of resources, intergenerational poverty. It's not because we're bad people, right? And today, the City Council can step up and make the right decision and pass the Renewable Rikers Act. This decision is not only morally responsible, but fiscally sound for the future of New York City. So I'm really imploring all of the council members to, step up today and pass Renewable Rikers. This is the smart decision, and everyone will benefit from doing so. So thank you for allowing me to speak today.
All right, thank you, Kandra. So it looks like Cecil is ready. Should we kick it over to him?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Hi, everyone. Happy Thursday and happy National Peppermint Day. I'm so sorry about the technical mishap. My laptop got cold feet. So I'm a South Bronx native with some roots in Upper Manhattan and Queens. So this movement has been really welcoming and means a lot to see this progress happening. So I am a hip hop artist by trade, and so I designed a piece, working in some of the history and some of the different aspects of the movement. So yeah, I go by my name is Cecil Brooks. I go by Dark Caesar, on the stage. So yeah, I hope you enjoy. And let me know if the sound is distorted. All right. So hip hop is really important because it's one of the voices that we use in order to push for change in many different disciplines. So this is hopefully something that can be a part of the discourse and the dialogue when we're talking about policy making. Okay. Shout out to Freedom Agenda. We trust in our Green Alliance and the Commission of Justice. Mott Haven, Harlem, weapon uptown freely. To Constantinides, we also got some queens. See, Tri-Borough Bridge linking the social contract. Our national coalition keeps local contact. Rikers made the call like a mobile Comcast. Circuit around the planet with global fallback. We needed a campaign to fight incarceration. It came from a bad place, really hard to break it. Downtown, the power plant, part of changes that we demand for more parts and the wages. Renewable Rikers, our time is here. A power to the people till the grid is clear. Decolonize land with some greener laws. So put 2 fingers up if you're down for the cause. Intro, 1592 was the vision. Took land from DOC and future prisons. 1593 directed studies on renewables. Our energy plan now looks so much more beautiful. 1591, never a tiny one, calls for water treatment with new shiny pumps. Our timeline was shortened. It's still important, so please don't lose sight of what we're still exploring. Remember the goal. We're breaking down jail beds down, providing jobs for the clan, Black, Asian, and brown. So much more promise in the reforms we found. So let's celebrate the win and bring it uptown. Renewable Rikers, our time is here. It's power to the people so the grid is clear. Decolonize land with greener laws. So put 2 fingers up if you're down for the cause. Peace signs up. And I think that's almost 2 minutes, around 2 minutes. So thank you so much for letting this music and the art be a part of the discourse. I'll put my info down, but shameless plug, I love doing Uptown historic tours, Bronx, Upper Manhattan. I'm learning themes, exploring those roots there. Policy, public servant, so I love connecting entrepreneur. Thank you so much, everyone.
Man, that's incredible. Thank you so much for that. Anel, I'm going to pass it over to you, but you've got a high bar. I hope you got your music queued up. I'll introduce her more. Anel Hernandez from New York City Environmental Justice Alliance to talk a little bit more about solar and energy storage and the specifics of a vision for the island.
Thanks so much, Tyler. I mean, definitely hard to come after that, but I'm definitely feeling a lot more energized. So thank you. That was wonderful. You know, over the past few years, New York City and New York State, we have been trailblazers when it comes to the most aggressive and the most equitable climate and environmental policy out there. And we should be so proud of what we've been able to achieve, including what we're doing here today. We passed the New York State Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act that requires that 70% of our electricity be renewable by 2030 and 100% carbon free by 2040. But while, you know, we have that in law, we need to make sure that it happens. We need to focus on land use issues. We need to go after these power plants. We need to start building the things that we want to see in our community. And this is a huge step to making that happen. There's not a lot of public land available in New York City, and Rikers just really presents an amazing opportunity to build that infrastructure that we need to start shutting down these polluting peaker plants that have been hurting communities of color and low-income people for decades, for generations, and we are tired of it. We want to see the solutions really begin to happen. And we want to see it done in an equitable way that provides utility bill savings for people, that provides workforce opportunities for people. We want to create something that is a model of a just transition, that is a model for what we imagined when we passed all of these major climate pieces of legislation. And so 1593 requires an energy feasibility study to understand how much solar, large-scale solar and battery storage technology we can put on the island. And NEJA and many other environmental justice groups are committed to engaging in this process in the long-term energy plan to make sure that they're studying what we want to see and that they're focusing on equity and workforce and energy burden as they do all of this. We are so ready to transition away from fossil fuels. We are tired of it. We need to invest in the future that we want to see, and this is a huge step to getting there. I am excited for 2027 when we can go and see all of this be realized, all of this be operationalized. And it has been just such a pleasure to work with all of the advocates here today. Special shout out to Freedom Agenda, NOPI, and The Point. Honestly, it's been a pleasure working with you guys, and this event has just been really wonderful, and I'm just really excited. So thank you so much.
Awesome, thank you. Now I'm going to pass it over to Eric Goldstein from NRDC.
Thank you, Tyler and Cecil B. Way to go. This is a great day. And thanks to, of course, our champion, Costa Constantinides, and Nick Wadzowski, his deputy and aide de camp, to Speaker Corey Johnson, and to the dozens of other council members who we believe are going to vote out these Renewable Rikers bills this afternoon. Social justice and environmental protection go hand in hand, and these Renewable Rikers bills are a beautiful example of that. Ending incarceration at Rikers is a moral imperative, as the Lippman Commission has concluded, and ending the climate crisis and localized air pollution problems that continue to plague particularly our most overburdened communities is another important issue for the city. So you've heard how these bills set an end date for transfer of Rikers out of the Department of Corrections. You've heard how the bills will encourage solar power and energy storage on the island. And another objective of the legislation is to deal with waste generated in New York City. And it would do that in two ways. One thing it would do is launch a study for constructing a modern wastewater treatment plant on a reimagined Rikers Island. And this would allow for the shutdown of one or more older plants elsewhere in the city and returning that land to the communities for repurposing as the communities desire. Would also cut a lot of water pollution as well. Another thing this legislation would do is direct the study of what could be the largest food waste composting operation in the entire region. And by doing that, we would be keeping food waste and yard waste out of incinerators and out of landfills. Both of those two mechanisms for dealing with waste generate global warming emissions, methane emissions, as well as localized air pollution problem. Finally, what this would all do is create the opportunity for green jobs on Rikers Island. And it's our hope that many of those jobs would go to formerly incarcerated detainees and be part of restorative justice. New Yorkers deserve both social justice and a clean, green, healthy, safe, and sustainable environment. And these bills are a step down the road to achieving all of that. So thanks to Darren Mack and all of the activists, our partners at New York City Environmental Justice Alliance, NYLPI, the Freedom of Agenda, the Lippman Commission, and all of you who were in this fight since the beginning. We're celebrating today, but the work isn't over, and we're all going to continue to keep our nose to the grindstone until we accomplish our objectives. Thanks.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Anil. I'm going to pass it along to Andre from We Act, who's also a member of the Solar Uptown Now services, who's trained as a solar installer. So he'll give us some more context on the workforce development perspective, particularly on the solar side. So Andre, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Hi, yes. First and foremost, I want to thank everybody, all our council members, organizers, and advocates who brought us to this significant day. My name is Andre Gentles. I'm a lifelong Bronx resident and a solar worker, trained by We Act for Environmental Justice, who is now a part of the Solar Uptown Now Services Cooperative, which I'm a part of. As a solar worker and construction worker, I'm excited that the Renewable Rikers Act is being voted on today. Renewable energy and green energy is what we should be moving towards. Not only for addressing global warming, but for moving to a better way of life that is healthier and cleaner for our communities. I view Renewable Rikers Project as a part of a collective of actions that are moving forward to a new way of powering our communities. The other ideas that come forward for Rikers Island once the penal colony closes, we're not achieving the same goal of long-term benefits for our communities, I believe. We're making real a vision of something new and fresh for our youth to benefit from in the future. We are setting the example of how to address global warming our way, and I'm excited to support these bills and see them come into law. Thank you.
Thank you, Andre. And now over to Melissa Yashan from New York Lawyers for the Public Interest. And I just want to say Melissa has done an incredible job pushing all this forward. So really grateful to you, Melissa.
Thank you so much, Tyler. And thank you everyone for being here today. It is truly a remarkable celebration. Thank you to Councilmember Constantinides, to the speaker, And most importantly, thank you to all of our partners and my fellow advocates, survivors, directly impacted people without whom we wouldn't be here today. When NYLPE joined the effort to close Rikers back in 2016, we never could have imagined that 5 years later, we'd be standing here today on the precipice of this revolutionary policy change. And it's my great pleasure and privilege to be able to have worked on this and continue to work with all of you. And as you've all heard today, the vision of Renewable Rikers represents truly powerful possibilities. And with passage of today's bills, the City of New York is making a promise to those whom you've heard speak today to begin to repair so much of the harm that our legacy of mass incarceration and environmental injustice have wreaked on communities. The reparative justice we are looking for in the implementation of this plan is not just about never again using the island itself for destructive and discriminatory corrections uses, and not just about being a huge step for our city to meet its sustainability goals, and not even just about creating good green jobs as part of a just transition. But if the city keeps the promise it is making today and fulfills the vision of Renewable Rikers, this means that where polluting infrastructure stands today, 20 or 30 years down the line, a waterfront park could stand, or a center for community resources and services, or modern affordable housing. We are cleaning up the air and water in the neighborhoods that have borne the greatest burden of pollution in our city. But we are also saying to these communities, who are the same communities with the highest incarceration rates, that we are investing in you, and you get to determine what to do with this space, this land where once a polluting peaker plant stood, or a smelly wastewater treatment plant, or a noxious truck-intensive waste transfer station. Now there is hopefully not going to be a need for that 20, 30, 40 years down the road, and air quality will have improved. There will be less waste spewing into our waterways, and there will be open space for community, for your community, for our communities to use it as it sees fit. That is how we begin to repair the harm. And today's vote represents the first step towards this goal. But there is still work to be done. And we intend to ensure that the city keeps its promise that it's making today, to guarantee that the vision that we have all been talking about today becomes our cleaner, greener, and more just reality. So thank you all for being here today and standing with us as we celebrate this, but there is more work to be done, and I am so proud to be able to do that work with you all. And thank you, and I pass it back to Costa and Darren.
Yes, Melissa, thank you for all your efforts. And yes, the work will continue and the promises will need to be kept. So I look forward to working with you to hold everyone accountable well after I leave office. Thank you, Melissa. So with that, I want to bring on some of my colleagues who have been huge supporters and environmental leaders in their own right and standing with all the advocates here today. I first want to bring forward from Manhattan. I know he's been waiting a little bit. I know we have Councilmember Ben Kalos, who's been a partner with me on so many environmental initiatives, whether it's Local Law 97 or Renewable Rikers. So I'll bring forward Councilmember Ben Kalos.
Thank you so very much for having me. I'm Councilmember Ben Kalos. I'm here trying to get through this pandemic. That's Pandora, and you're overhearing my wife and daughter and mother-in-law, and it's no longer the new normal. It's been a year. This is normal. I am so happy to join so many of you in celebrating this victory. None of this would have been possible without Councilmember Costa Constantinides, who has been a champion for our environment as a council member, as a staffer. Is the only thing he cares about, and he knows more than anybody, because he says it more than anybody, that we are the comet. And now that Rikers is closing, we have a unique opportunity to make this plot of land something positive from our city. Out of the darkness can come light, and in fact, solar. And so that is incredibly transformational. I'll also just say that if we leave Rikers alone and don't do anything, those that would seek to leave it there, those who would seek to turn it into luxury housing, those who would seek to pervert all that we've done, will do it. So the only thing we can do is make sure we put it to good use. This is a once in a generation opportunity to develop enough megawatt solar capacity to power 250,000 homes and provide for renewable energy demands that are under the Climate Mobilization Act that I was so proud to co-sponsor with Costa, the landmark, the best, the strongest bill of its kind on this planet that will save this planet. New York City has to continue to be a leader on these issues, not only here in New York State, but around the country and around the world. By turning Rikers into a hub of renewable energy packed with solar panels, batteries, wastewater treatment, the city will finally be building for the future. Proud to support Costa. I'm so proud to support a green vision for this 400-acre facility that can't close soon enough. Keep it out of the hands of luxury developers and lowering the burden on the communities of color that have been burdened by all of this infrastructure for far too long. Thank you for all of your great work. I'm Ben Kalos, and I'm going to go vote for this.
Thank you, brother. It's good to see you. Thank you for all the great work that you're always doing. Next over, I want to bring up another one of my colleagues who has been a champion in her own right on the environment and is the co-prime sponsor with me on these pieces of legislation, as well as Ben, someone who has been fighting on so many fronts in the city council and is an amazing leader. Helen Rosenthal. Helen, are you here?
Yeah, thank you so much, Costa. I'm here with an assist, really. Just want to thank you for your leadership over the past 7 years that brought us to this place. And without you and without the advocates who I am seeing on your 5 pages worth of Zoom people, this never would have happened. So to NILP, to the environmental racism, hang on, it's backwards there. Environmental racism in NYC, and I assume it's anti the racism. So thank you all for all of your work. You're just amazing advocates, and this is a hell of a legacy that you all will be leaving behind. Congratulations.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you for all that you do, and the legacy is shared amongst all of us. And I think when we get into public office, the goal is to leave the world just a little bit better than the way we found it. And I hope today, with all the work of these advocates, that we're attempting to do, leave the world a little bit better than the way we found it. So thank you. I know, are any of my colleagues here? I think I saw Carlina Rivera. Carlina, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right.
How's it going? I'm so
Good.
I love the sports metaphors, Councilmember Rosenthal. So I gotta say, Costa's the coach. I'm ready to go in. I'm ready to carry what is probably the most important baton in terms of issues, which is environmental racism, criminal justice reform, and fighting to protect our communities in the face of climate change. So it is very, very simple. Not only should we guarantee that this land is never used. That's a smoke alarm. Make sure yours are working. Replace the batteries. Get to battery storage in a second. The husband is with the assist on lunch. So simply put, not only should we guarantee that this land is never used for jails again as we move to decarcerate, but we need to continue being a leader on resiliency, and a Renewable Rikers is a part of this larger plan. Solar power, battery storage, renewable energy, wastewater treatment, and the potential for community use can be delivered to and for the people of New York City. So shutting down these plants potentially will free up hundreds of publicly owned acres. And I want to thank this amazing coalition for imagining what is truly possible. So I'll probably be voting aye when it is my time to really just solidify what is an incredible legacy and really a vision for the entire city. I know in my own district, I have a vision for what we can do. We do have a large plant that I would like to see really reduced and eventually phased out completely as we move to complete renewables. And I know I can do that with the talent, the expertise, the passion, and the courage that is in this coalition right now. So thank you, Costa. Thank you to my colleagues. And I'm really, really proud that we're moving this and continue to be a leader in the nation on renewables.
Thank you, Councilmember Rivera. Thank you for being an environmental leader. I'm so glad to see you. I'm glad that you're here and part of this rally today. Thank you so very much. I think I also want to bring forward from the Sunrise NYC movement. We have Sunrise has been fighting throughout the country for a greener and better USA, state, and now city. So I want to bring forward Harry Menon from Sunrise NYC.
Thank you for having us. Maybe it's an irony that a rep from Sunrise NYC, a youth group, wants to review the history, but since we weren't around for it, it's just especially stunning to us. While New Yorkers, we were told that peakers were necessary to avoid rolling blackouts, just reviewing the annals of the New York Times, it becomes clear that Governor Pataki, he saw an opportunity to soften climbing electricity rates if he directed NYPA to pollute communities of color, and if his appointed fourth branch regulators ignored those communities. So this victory, flipping the power structure, legislating from the bottom on up, empowering those most affected by incarceration and air pollution, it's an especially sweet day. But the movement for a Green New Deal, it's not going to end here. No matter the magnitude of this transformative achievement, we know that this is not the capstone on Costa's career in the council. The councilman, he has a nose for carbon burns and an eye towards justice. He's our EJ Ramrod, and I'm confident we'll convene again in the months ahead to celebrate the next big win. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry, and thank you for Sunrise. And thank you all our young people who are leading, throughout this country. So thank you, Harry, and thank you to Sunrise. With that, I'll pass it back to the Freedom Agenda and Darren Mack to give some closing thoughts.
Yes, thank you so much, council member. Thank you so much, all the city council members that spoke today. Before we wrap up, I want everyone, if you could turn your screen on and raise your left fist or peace sign up. And if you have a sign, like I made a sign last night, it's not my creative sign, but I made it last night because this is a historic moment. Throw up your peace sign, throw your fist, because this is a historic moment. I want to remind viewers that it took courage. It took commitment. It took the people power to get to this point. And it's going to take a renewal of our courage, commitment, and people power to see our vision of a renewable Rikers, because there's still more work to be done. And with that, I'll pass it back to City Council Member Costa.
Darren, my last Costa's good. Constantine is just too long for everybody. But I just wanted to thank all the activists. Thank you for all the advocates. Thank you for everyone's partnership. Today is a great day. Pass Renewable Rikers Act. Let's make it happen, everybody. And, the work continues. That's the big takeaway from today. We're going to get this started, but the work will continue. So let's have the vote today, and then tomorrow we can celebrate. And then tomorrow we put we go right back to the work to make sure that this vision that you all put together comes to fruition, right? That's what it's all about. So with that, we have breakout rooms, or if any of the press want to speak to anyone here, please let us know. But thank you all for being here. Thank you for my colleagues. Thank you to the advocates. Thank you to Speaker Johnson. And let's get it done today, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, council members. So just to explain how this next portion is going to go, what we're going to do is we're going to have 3 breakout rooms, one with Councilmember Constantinides, one with environmental justice advocates, and one with criminal justice advocates. And members of the press, you should be able to just sort of float through all of those rooms. Individuals who will be in those rooms, you're going to get a prompt on your screen to join the room that you're assigned to. You should see that prompt on your screen now. For folks who don't want to stick around, that sort of ends the live portion of this. So we're going to leave Facebook